Hi there, welcome back to the Flask Mastery Series. I'm Gorret and in this session we are going to be designing our book model. So let's get started. So we are going to go ahead and create a new class for our model. So class book, and you know that the book class is going to act as a subclass that will be inheriting from the superclass db.model. And for this case, I'm going to go ahead and copy the import statements from the user model and paste them here. So we are inheriting from the db.model class, and this is acting as our superclass. So now we are going to go ahead and define the attributes that are going to act as properties for our class. So we know that each book is going to be uniquely identified, and we shall also need to customize the name for this case. So I'll go ahead and copy these and paste them here and update the indentation. So the table name, we are going to be customizing the table name to books, and then the ID, this will remain. So we know that our book class is going to have other properties like the title. So we shall have the title. So for this case, I can actually reuse this code here, so that we just update the attributes. So our title, it's going to be of type string, and then the maximum number of characters we can have is going to be 150. Then you know that the title is also going to be required, so nullable will be false. Then the other property we are going to have is the number of pages. So we can have the pages, but this time around the pages is going to be of type integer, so we shall update this to type int, so the integer class. And we know that the pages is also going to be required, so nullable will be false. Then we shall also need the price, so update the price, and the price is also going to be of type int, so we shall have the db.integer class, and the price is also going to be required. So since we are having the price, we can also keep track of the price unit. For example, if a book was costing maybe 50,000, then we can also add something like maybe 50,000 Uganda shillings or dollars. So we can actually rename this to the price unit. And for this case, if we are storing the currency as maybe Uganda shillings or dollars, that means that this is of type string. So we shall update this to string. So we can see that it's also going to be required, but we can also pass in a default value for the price unit. So default will be, we can work with our Uganda currency, UGX. And then we know that we can also always keep track of the publication date. I'll actually copy this title part and paste it here and update this property to the publication date. So the publication date is going to be of type date, so db.date. So this is going to be the date at which the book was published, and it is also going to be required. So we are also going to keep track of the ISBN for each book, which is the International Standard Book Number, which uniquely identifies published books. So the data type for this case, we know that the ISBNs are strings composed of digits and hyphens. So that means that they're always of type string. So we can actually use this db.string, and then maybe the validation for this, we can work with a maximum of 30, depending on the format in which the ISBN has been created. And we can also pass in a unique constraint to ensure that all the ISBNs are unique. So unique will be true. We can also keep track of the genre for each book. So the genre is like the category to which each book belongs. So most of the times you can actually work with the category to which the book belongs, in a way that we are also having a different model for the categories, and we just pass in the category ID on the book model. But for this case, with the fact that we are not working with the category as an independent class, we can just store the category name for this case. So the generic can also work as the category, such that we define the data type 2, and for this case we can actually have a maximum of maybe 50 characters, and it's also going to be required. We can also store the description for each book. So the maximum number of characters we can have for the description, we can update this to 255, and it's also going to be required. And we can also keep track of the image for each book. Then we update the maximum number of characters to 255, and we can actually make the image to be optional, so nullable will be true. So we know that every new book that is going to be created is going to belong to a particular author. So this means that we need to keep track of the user ID. So we shall actually just copy this foreign key on our company model, such that we'll use it here for the user ID, in a way that we shall keep track of each author's ID to which the book belongs. So user ID db.column db.integer, and it's referencing on the user's table. So we shall also go ahead and keep track of the company ID to which each book is going to belong. So we can have the company ID, and for this case this references on the company's table. And we shall also go ahead and define the relationship between the book and the user. So with the fact that each book that is published belongs to a particular author, we are going to define this relationship using the user property. Then we have db.relationship. We pass in the user, and to navigate back from our child class, which is the book, to the parent class, which is now the user model or the user class, we work with the backref attribute, and the backref for this case is now going to be books, meaning that an author can publish one or more books. So we shall be using this as a silent attribute on our user model. So this is also going to be the same thing for the company. So I'll go ahead and copy this and reuse it, meaning that each book that is going to be published is going to belong to a particular company too. So company db.relationship, we are working with the company model, and then a company can have very many books. So lastly, I'm going to go ahead and copy the timestamps that we have on our user model so that we can reuse them on our book model, and then I'll also update the indentation. So we can also go ahead and add a constructor for our book class. So we know that we work with the init function, and now with the fact that we are inheriting from our superclass db.model, we are going to be invoking the constructor for the db.model class. So the parameters that we are going to work with are the parameters that we have defined for our book model. So we are having the title. In other words, we shall expect a title for every new object that is going to be created as an instance for the book class. So we shall have the title, the price, the description. Of course, if we are to invoke the constructor for our superclass, which is the db.model, we need to also make sure that we are passing in the book model and then the current object. So when we invoke the init method from our super class, which is the db.model class. This ensures that any necessary initialization from the db.model class is executed before the specific initialization of our book class. So this will actually ensure correct functionality of our object relational mapper and any other functionalities from the db.model class. So we are now going to go ahead and update. So self.title will equal to the title. Then self.price, we shall assign this to the price too. So in other words, we want to work with a constructor in a way that if we create any new instance from our book class, all these properties are going to be required or created for each instance. So I'm going to go ahead and update all these verify. So for this case, I'm actually making the ISBN and the image nullable. So that means that I'll also make sure that while we migrate the book table, the ISBN is also nullable. So nullable for this case will actually be true, just in case we do not have any ISBN number to work with. So lastly, we can also work with a string representation of our book class. The rep function returns a string type of an instance that has been created on any model class. So for this case, I'm going to go ahead and just return a simple string literal. So return, we shall format this to maybe the book, and this is going to take on the book title. So we shall also update the constructors of the user class and the company model so that they also invoke the constructor of the superclass from which we are inheriting. So we shall update this to user, and we shall also update the constructor for the company model. I hope this session was insightful. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next session, where we shall be setting up our database.